Welcome to the Blue Security Podcast, a weekly podcast for information security defenders, where we bring you discussions on best practices, tools, and implementation for enterprise security. Now, here are your hosts for today's show, Andy Jha and Adam Brewer.
All right, welcome to this week's episode of the Blue Security Podcast. I'm Andy, your host.
And I'm Adam, your co-host. Just kidding.
Well, you may see that we do not have Adam this week. He is on vacation. So thankfully, Carly Salmon is filling in. You may remember Carly from a while back. She was on our episode as a guest, and we were talking about compliance, I think. But anyways, Carly is one of my former coworkers from Microsoft, and she is a data security solutions engineer. Carly, if you want to just give an intro about yourself to our listeners who may not remember you from before, short intro about you, and then we'll get into the disclaimer and then on with the show.
Awesome. No, thanks for having me. I'm glad and humbled to be playing a poor man's Adam, if you will. Like Andy said, I'm Carly Salmon. I'm a data security solutions engineer at Microsoft. So I focus on everything about protecting your data, whether it's information protection, data loss protection, insider risk management. Been increasingly important with the boom of AI. And so I've worked in the federal space as well as I work in the telco, construction, media space now. But prior to that, I was working for the U.S. government and DOW doing compliance audits and assessments of our defense contractors. So happy to be here filling in.
All right. Thank you. And because we're going to be kind of talking about Microsoft and Zscaler and some of our employers here, our standard disclaimer, Carly and I both work in the security sales industry. Carly works for Microsoft. I work for Zscaler. The show is not sponsored by either one, and the opinions you're about to hear are of those of Carly and myself and do not reflect those of our employers. And so with that, we have two stories that we're going to talk about. They're very meaty. They're very good. The first one is a hotel Wi-Fi hack. There's ways to skip over multi-factor authentication, do some credential phishing. And then the second one is about a guy in Atlanta who's facing 5 years in federal prison for wiping his own phone during a border search. So really interesting. Yes. Okay. So this first one, hotel Wi-Fi DNS hijacking and some stealing of Microsoft 365 logins. So here's the setup. Hackers are changing the DNS settings on Wi-Fi gateways at hotels and conference centers so that when users, attendees are trying to connect and log into Microsoft 365, you get sent to a fake page, or sometimes, I'll talk about how it could be a real page as well. But these have been running since at least June. So there was a security firm called ReliaQuest that found compromised gateways in multiple U.S. cities, plus India and Saudi Arabia. And these gateways were serving corporate events and conferences so that when someone hijacks the Microsoft 365 login on that network, they can get access to sensitive business communications and private documents. And it wasn't just hitting a single industry. ReliaQuest saw traffic from financial services, professional services, legal, healthcare, energy, and retail. So the campaign, it was going after traveling employees wherever they were going and connecting, and wasn't specific to like a sector. The researchers looked really similar to Frost Armada router campaign. So this was in threat intelligence, was tied to APT28, and you might know that group as Fancy Bear or Forest Blizzard, which is Russian espionage, right?
Yes. Really, they just target anybody and everybody. So some of this is, I think one of the biggest takeaways, like from what you said before, is that there's no specific person, field, or it's just la-di-da-di, anybody and everybody, like kind of like a spray and pray type of to get what they want.
Yeah, not targeted at all. So the technical details of it are kind of interesting. We're not really sure. There wasn't a lot of whole data on how they got into the Wi-Fi appliances specifically, but you could probably imagine like either weekly protected management interfaces like SSH or SMTP, or the web admin dashboard of these, or an unpatched vulnerability, multiple different ways to get into these, right? But once they're in, they change the gateway's DNS settings, which, if you're new to security or new to networking, that's just like the IP address that it's like the address book. So like if I go type in Microsoft.com, it'll point me to the IP address of Microsoft servers, and they can point it to their own DNS servers. So instead of saying Microsoft.com pointing to the real Microsoft, it redirects that traffic to their DNS servers, which then redirects that traffic to like a malicious web server or a proxy or something like that, right? And so there were a couple different ways that they were taking advantage of this. One is called device code flow, which we've talked about on the show, but just as a reminder, that's like, in everyone's day-to-day life, right? Like if you sign into Apple TV or Roku with Netflix, it'll pop up a QR code. And so instead of having to type in your credentials on the little remote, right, with the password, you could scan the QR code. It pops up to your phone, which probably has Netflix logged into it. You say approve, and boom, you're logged in on the phone. So that's called a device code flow, which is an open API, which is is a passwordless authentication, right? And so that's part of how they were doing it. So, maybe they served up it is a legitimate way to sign in to Microsoft, but it kind of changes the way you think about the defenses because it's not really harvesting a password. The victim's sent to Microsoft's real sign-in page, completes the MFA normally, and then on Microsoft's infrastructure, and then the attacker generates that code. It's sitting there waiting, and when the victim approves it, they're not logging in themselves. They're basically handing the attacker a session, right, that's already logged in through MFA. So the MFA was
sitting there with them, like
correct,
waiting to like sneak in the door with them.
Correct. Yeah. So there's also like other ways that, they could take advantage of this. It wasn't specifically reported through ReliaQuest, but because you're redirecting that traffic to like a malicious server or DNS server, you could also have like a proxy server and proxy it to Microsoft's real sign-in page so that to the user, it looks exactly the same. It could be their corporate sign-in page, and it's actually the page because it's getting proxied. But you're getting that adversary in the middle proxy server where they can capture that traffic, capture the session cookie, all of that stuff. And so tools like Evil Jinx or Evil Proxy, which I know that Adam and I have mentioned on the show as well, they sit as like a live proxy in between, passing username, password, all that stuff goes right through the proxy, and the attacker can capture that. And because there's at this gateway at the conference, redirecting your traffic again, they can redirect it anywhere they want. So that's another way that they can take advantage of it. But all in all, kind of a really bad thing. And then there was another case that they're using called WPAD abuse, web proxy auto discovery, which lets Windows automatically find a proxy server on the network. And then the attackers would respond to that with the automatic lookup for a malicious proxy configuration file. And even if this is something that like is important here. I know that a lot of people think, okay, well, what if I put in my own DNS into my client's like settings? Like I go into like the network settings of my Windows machine or iPhone or whatever, and I type in 8.8.8.8 for Google's DNS servers. That won't matter because DNS on port 53 is unencrypted. So that's the important thing is like, that's why like VPNs back in the day were such a huge like thing. They're like, oh, attackers can steal your data. That was mainly because a lot of traffic was HTTP over port 80, but now all that traffic is HTTPS. Like 99% of like internet traffic is HTTPS. So it's not like you're logging into like your bank and they can capture your credentials, right? But they can know where you're going, which is like say USAA.com or whatever. They'll see that request, right?
Like I think it's a question, like kind of rhetorical, but like there's nothing that the user, these people will see, could notice, right? Like a phishing email or something to that effect. So there's no way for you to have like noticed it to prevent it.
Correct. Yeah. It either serves up the real page or a page that looks very, very convincing. Right? It could be a fake page, but it would look convincing. So yeah. So it's important that DNS traffic over port 53, which is kind of the default, you'll see that DNS request, right? And that's the thing that's, threat intel. Like if I wanted to know where Carly does her banking, I want to know where, if I see gmail.com, then I know she has a Gmail address, or outlook.com if I see it. So I can see like the DNS request unencrypted if I control the router, right? Or really if I'm doing scanning of any kind. So that's the thing, is that they can, if you change your client settings, it'll hit the gateway, and they can still basically form like a firewall rule to take that traffic and still redirect it to their own, just over port 53, to their own DNS servers. So even at the client's level, if you're just normally unencrypted port 53 DNS requests, it'll still get forwarded to the attacker's DNS servers, right? So not a good fix. So a couple ways that we can protect this, right? This, I guess we'll go through a few, but one, I would say rogue hotspot protection, which in this case, I don't think this would help too much, because it's like the gateway at the conference broadcasting the actual, SSID, right? But sometimes, people put out their own hotspot and you connect to it, right? And you don't know if that's the real one or not, right? So,
and you can rename a device's hotspot in a second.
Yep. So I could rename my phone's hotspot, right, or something,
to look like what the conference one is, or somebody who's walking through the conference, because a lot of these conferences are like kind of in a free and open space until you go into those main rooms. So all the stuff you see people doing at Black Hat when trying to see what they can do and being all nerdy and fun.
Exactly. So I would say something like, Defender for Endpoint, that has like rogue hotspot protection. There's some other, if it's for the phones, I think some Mobile Threat Defense also has some of that, and some of the other EDR platforms may have that as well. So rogue hotspot protection, I don't know if that would help this particular attack, but it is something to be conscious of when you're connecting to like an unknown Wi-Fi SSID.
I think that's something that is something, and like even when we talk through some like other things, like everybody can do, just as like a safe against public Wi-Fi type of thing, right? Like this is targeted at specific types of public Wi-Fi, but public Wi-Fi has always been, public enemy number one, if you will, for these things, right? So.
Yep. And then, a couple other things. I won't dive too deep into this because we on the show have mentioned this quite a few times, but just in general, like requiring compliant devices, like Intune managed devices through conditional access. When an attacker tries to replay that token on a device that's not managed, it should flag it automatically. IDP like Entra or like Okta or whatever can also have like sign-in risk detection. Like Entra has conditional access against risk as well, so it can block risky users, it can block risky sign-ins. So there's other things that you can do with that kind of more protection on the identity side, which kind of is not it's encompassing this attack, but also other attacks as well. So those are things that you can obviously do. VPN. I think VPN is a pretty easy solution here, but with a little bit of nuance, right? So a corporate VPN, it has to have a termination point. So obviously your organization has to have some sort of VPN infrastructure, firewall. And also, are you forwarding, is it a full tunnel? Are you tunneling all your traffic, or are you split tunneling your traffic? So like some of it's going straight to the cloud and only your corporate apps are going to the VPN tunnel, which is generally the better way.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft specifically, and we're talking about the Microsoft login page here, they recommend to not hairpin Microsoft traffic through a VPN, like through your own data center, then egress out, right? So imagine I'm in New York City and my company is here in Wisconsin, and I VPN, and the VPN termination's in Wisconsin, and I got to get to Microsoft 365. Instead of egressing out in New York, my traffic's going to go through multiple hops to get to the Wisconsin data center where my VPN is, then egress out to the internet, right? And that is a terrible user experience, right? So some nuance there. Again, I don't think a full VPN here for corporate wise would be good, because again, with that traffic, we should be going right to Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's other solutions. I would say from the corporate side, we have other solutions. From a personal side,
I was gonna say, like, what about like personal? Because like, right, like it's easy when corporate kind of takes care of everything. I'm a little bit covered. If something happens, it's really like it's their device, if you
Right.
will.
Right.
But what if I want to like do this for me? Tell me,
Yeah.
Andy.
So a personal VPN, I think, is always something good to have. Like, I think everyone should have some sort of VPN in general, right? So, a lot of different options out there. I have Proton VPN. I've used NordVPN. There's several good options that are
Mhm.
have been audited, for their logging and all of that. So I would say those are two good ones. Obviously, whatever you decide, don't pick a free one because nothing is free.
Yes.
So, and you can also do something like stand up your own VPN. That's a little bit more work. If you have, like a nerd like myself, I have like an on-premise server, so I can stand up my own VPN.
Yeah.
But even that is some work, right? Like you have to,
Yeah.
there's overhead. And it's the same problem that you have with a corporate VPN because, with like Nord or with like Proton, they have server data centers all over the place. But like if I stood up my own, it's in my house. And so I would, again, hairpin all of my traffic through my house through that data pipeline, right? So I use another solution called NextDNS, which I really like. And that's, some people stand up like, I found it because I wanted to block ads at the DNS level. So some people stand up like a pie hole at home, which is basically a DNS server, which filters out a bunch of all the advertising, URLs and domains. But NextDNS kind of does the same thing, but I don't have to have my own like Raspberry Pi. It's a service. It's a SaaS service. So there's clients that are on every operating system, iOS, Android, Windows, Mac. And by default, if you're using the client, it does something called DNS over HTTPS, or short DOH, which encrypts your DNS traffic. So it's a tunnel for just port 53 to
Divert
NextDNS's.
Right.
Right. So you're correct. It's it's 443. So it converts all of your DNS traffic to 443, correct, instead of port 53. And so all your traffic is encrypted then, and that would protect against something like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would that protect against it better than using like a personal VPN? Like if you were to pick like one thing in this section of like, which would it be, do you think?
So like DOH and NextDNS are very, very lightweight because it's only doing your DNS requests, right? Okay. If I go to CNN.com, it goes through NextDNS's encrypted tunnel to see where CNN.com's IP servers are, like IP addresses, and then it returns that to me. And then in my browser, it goes to CNN.com. But the traffic to CNN.com is going over the gateway, wherever it is, right? It's still 443 traffic, but that traffic's traversing over wherever the conference center, their Wi-Fi is through Charter, like that. It's going through that pipeline, right?
Okay.
The DNS request itself didn't pass through the gateway. It passed through the gateway through 443, but it's encrypted, right? And it returns, but my traffic is there. So the VPN encrypts the entire tunnel. So all of my traffic now, regardless of, right? So it's a different thing, like if you do VPN, there can be performance issues, right? Because you are egressing from a different location rather than wherever the ISP is. I don't know. There's different use cases for both, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, in me asking that question and realizing, it's not really like a one answer fits all because each of these things, endpoint identity, the VPN, all have a purpose and all can do different things. And so it's that layered security, which is always kind of, what we talk about, or when you are trying to plan for security, it's defense in depth and you have different layers because there are like of all these different ways that all these different nuances.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, from the personal side, I think NextDNS, at least for the most part, I think that is good enough, but there are times to use a full VPN. I will say that there's an easy button for a lot of people. A lot of folks are using Unify as a router gateway. It's like, I call it a prosumer, like not a full consumer. You're kind of like power user type consumer, right? So Unify is very popular among a lot of IT folks, a lot of IT security folks. And they have this little thing that I just picked up called a travel router. And Unify has a no configuration VPN built into their stuff. So literally on the little travel router, I can just say connect to my Unify appliance at home, and it just establishes a VPN tunnel, and it's done. I didn't have to stand up any servers. I didn't have to configure anything, like tunnels and key exchanges and all of that. I just clicked the button that said connect. So that has been pretty cool. So if you have Unify, check that out. I know it has been on back order for a long time. A lot of people are interested. Now, before we hop off the subject, I do want to talk about an enterprise solution, right? Because we kind of left it at that VPN where, not hairpinning all your stuff, which wouldn't have protected against this one. So want to talk about a couple ways to protect it. So obviously, if you haven't heard, I work for Zscaler. So their Zscaler is a forward proxy, and Microsoft has a very similar solution called Entra Internet Access. Same concept, forward proxy, where, and I think, I'm trying to remember, I think Entra Internet Access only uses port 80 and 443. I have to actually check that. But for, in general, forward proxy forwards your traffic and your DNS requests to like the proxy servers. And in this case, that would protect against this. So I think, whether it's Zscaler, if you're deep in the Microsoft stack, Entra Internet Access is something that you can take a look at. But if you don't have one of these kind of like web traffic tools, that might be something you want to look at, because I don't know otherwise a good way to stand up something on your own.
Yeah. I mean, unless it's like, several different things again, like,
Yeah.
So, but no, and I think, the great thing with both like Zscaler solution and like Entra Internet Access, Global Secure Access, whatever it's being called, like it connects back to those identity policies that you were talking about, conditional access, and that, the MFA policies and everything like that. So it all kind of, again, connects together in one step versus repeating it in there. So,
Yeah. So very interesting. Obviously, I travel to conferences. I'm sure a lot of IT folks travel to conferences. So always be kind of weary of that.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things too. It kind of reminds you to like think about the Wi-Fi again. Like I think, or even when it comes to, I mean, in this case, it's not necessarily like this. Well, it's not the same as like, how advanced a lot of like phishing exercises have become, or spoof pages have become very realistic. And it's reminding you to be vigilant, right? Complacency kills. And so, and just because you're at a conference does not mean that like it's like being at home or at work or in a trusted place. So I think that's one of like the biggest takeaways is just always being vigilant.
Yeah, having something to like piggyback. There's other devices that you could buy. I had one for years, so I feel like what's old is new again. Like it's like this used to be something.
Like a MiFi.
Yeah, exactly.
Forget even using the public Wi-Fi. Yeah, no, a MiFi for sure.
Yeah, or just like something to you can like give a device like a travel router. And it doesn't have to be like Unifies, but you can like connect to a travel router that you bring that like basically takes the input of a Wi-Fi as their like internet signal, right? And then broadcast your own SSID, which therefore you control like where that stuff goes to. So I mean, I feel like this is an attack that used to be around. We used to be very vigilant, VPNs, all that other stuff. And like you said, once I feel like we've gotten a little complacent on this, and I know I have. I've just like gone to conferences, connected to the Wi-Fi and we're good to go.
Oh, that's a QR code for the Wi-Fi for the conference? Cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Just get me out connected. I don't care.
I think I will say, I think there are sometimes I'm like, like Microsoft manages my mobile device. We're fine. Like, but then in a case like this, that's not enough, you know?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's go on to the second one here.
The spicy one.
Yeah. So let's get into what happened. So Sam Tulnik, who is a participant in the Defend the Atlanta Forest movement, in January of 2025, he was returning from a vacation in the Dominican Republic. At Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson Airport, a CBP tactical terrorism response team pulled him aside for a secondary inspection and asked for his phone password. Instead of revealing his real password, he gave the agents a duress password. He was running a Google Pixel loaded with Graphene OS, which a privacy-focused custom operating system. And when the agents entered the code, the screen went blank, flashed a few times, and then the phone appeared to restart. So the agents then seized the phone and told him he was free to enter the country. So that's kind of what happened way back in January of 2025. But why it kind of made the news is that now he's being charged under a federal statute that makes it a crime to knowingly destroy or damage property to prevent the government from lawfully seizing it. And that charge can carry up to 5 years. He pled not guilty. The government's theory is that the phone itself was just a container that the officers had authority to seize the data inside. And by entering the duress code, Tulnik intentionally destroyed the evidence before they could look at it. Tulnik's attorneys are pushing back. They say that the agents claimed they didn't need a warrant because he technically hadn't crossed the border yet. And then secondly, they argued the government used a pretext supposedly searching for child exploitation material without ever proving evidence to justify that claim in order to get into his phone in the first place. Legal experts are calling this close to unprecedented. One of Tulnik's public defenders told reporters it is incredibly rare to see this particular statute used this way.
Ooh. It's a lot. And I think so many thoughts. But the not needing the warrant because he hadn't technically crossed the border, like I think, and I mean, there's like so many different articles and different quotes from his lawyers, but it was about his rights. They never read him his rights, and they said that they didn't need to read him his rights because he hadn't crossed the border. But legally, they can seize his phone for a basic search. Customs and Border Control can, whatever side of the border he's on. But like the search of his phone was legal without, and they don't even need a precedent. They don't because it can be a random, hey, Andy, I want to look at your phone. You can say no, though.
Correct. Just to be clear, that's at the border, right? Yeah. So this is not like
in the airport.
So in the airport, at the border, at customs, they can request,
line.
and they can. But in general, if you provide them with the code, you're kind of consenting to the search.
Correct.
So that's different too, because it's like they don't need a warrant because you've consented. Like you gave them the code.
Yeah. Like, and because you're right, you can say no, and then they'll most likely just take your phone, do a search, and then send it back or whatever. But like, they can ask to search your phone, so like, that's legal. And so like, the law in 2025 was a basic search, so it's anything that's like on that device, and it was like restricted to types of devices. In 2026, that was updated, and they can even do if they have reasonable
suspicion.
Yes, if it's a reasonable suspicion, they can do an advanced search, and it also expands the types of devices to include laptop, GPS devices. So like it expands it to a lot more things, and like there's a big conflict of is this a violation of a constitutional right or not? But Customs and Border Patrol kind of have this waiver for that Fourth Amendment right, which is like also like a very weird gray area too. But it's the wiping of the device, because it's not that because he could have given them the wrong code, but he gave them a kill switch.
Yeah, so that's the nuance here, right? Because like you can they can request a search. You can consent by giving them the correct passcode. They do their search and you're done. Or you can flat out refuse. They confiscate the phone and do their search and mail it back to you. If you're a U.S. citizen, you cannot be denied entry, because you can see here he was free to enter, right? And so you can't be denied entry to the United States. If you're on I feel like if you're on a green card, if you're on a visa, for sure, they can deny you entry.
Yeah, probably.
If you're on a green card, I would be very like careful.
Curious, yeah.
Yeah. But U.S. citizen, you are good to go. Like you cannot be denied to enter your own country.
Right.
Now, the nuance here is that he actually gave them a kill switch and then wiped the phone, right? Which, unprecedented for sure, right?
And then was the arrest of destroying evidence, which they're like, we don't even know if there was evidence because the phone's now destroyed. Was that right? And I think there's a lot of upheaval about, well, there is no evidence, so how can you say? But it's like almost like obstruction of justice in a way, if you will, or it's like, in the financial district, or in the 80s when like Madoff and all that stuff was happening, they know the FBI is coming, so they're shoving shit in the shredders. You can be arrested for that. They haven't seen the evidence yet, but so like, is it correct? Is it like, has this ever really been done before? Probably not. And so I think that's what also makes it, and it's one of those thwarted again, like, because they thought they had him, or they were probably thought that they would probably find something else. But like another thing is like, even if they do search your phone, if you don't have Graphene OS, if you don't have this kill switch, or you don't want to do it, they can only look at what's locally on the device. So if you have anything that's like in the cloud and not locally on the device, they can't access your cloud accounts.
They're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to.
Right. Yeah.
And so, but that
I do think like it's interesting because like I have always thought about like when I travel outside the country, especially in this administration, but also like if you're traveling to like China. I used to be in a company that had manufacturing in China, and so we would send employees there. And I don't know if I would want to bring. I think most of the time we issued like a burner phone for those folks and told them not to sync anything. Graphene is kind of interesting too because I've played around with it like throughout the years. Yeah, this
was the first time I had heard of it, but
there have been many iterations.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, there was like it's been around for many years. I want to say like over 10 years, this open source project. And, it used to be a lot harder, I think, you have to root the phone and then go through all the stuff. And now I think with AI, being able, and there's a lot of documentations, literally you can just get a step-by-step to do it. And Graphene OS has matured quite a bit. You used to have to like side load your apps because you didn't have access to the Google API. Because the whole point is like de-Googleize yourself, right, from Android. And so there's no Play Store.
Okay.
Yeah. So like you have to get apps from different, open source projects. And so essentially you're side loading them. And some of the apps even underneath still have to talk back to Google servers. So like those are no-goes. Maps is a good one, right? Like you have to use an open source map unless you want to. It wasn't MapQuest, but it was something else.
I was going to say, has MapQuest like gotten a little bit smarter with like the live map? That'd be cool. Let's bring that back. Graphene, bring that back. If you're listening, you should get MapQuest. Yeah.
And I think that what's interesting is this duress passcode. Like I do have, so what we told listeners before, like on iPhone, you can like double click or not double click, but like press and
hold a button or two buttons for too long, it automatically goes into emergency mode and SOS.
Correct. Or it locks the phone so that you have to put in the passcode. Because like the passcode is something, this is another legal thing, right? Passcode is something and you have to say. Mm-hmm. And so that is protected with self-incrimination, the Fifth Amendment, right? Because by having to say it or provide it, you can self-incriminate. However, biometrics is something you are, and that is there's a court case right now in the DC circuit that's they're litigating, but it's just for that one specific case for one specific defendant. It's not like adjudicated at like the Supreme Court level, right? And so, but they did win an argument to say that your face is also protected by the Fifth Amendment in that particular case.
Okay.
But as of nationwide, like if you get arrested or whatever, they can just hold your phone up. If you didn't like do the thing to lock the phone to put in the passcode, they can just hold up your face, unlock, and you're not protected, right?
Yeah. Or like when you are traveling, and it says like pulling it back to like before, turn off Face ID, like recognition, like in addition to like a lot of other things that you should probably turn off that you keep on, like.
That's a good point.
I don't know, but yeah, like people will turn Face ID off so that you can't even use it. I feel like my Face ID doesn't recognize me 9 times out of 10, so I have to use the password anyway or the passcode.
That's another thing I read was that one guy, I read this as another mitigation against the Face ID, was when he made the Face ID scan, he deliberately distorted his face, like made like a
so he would have to do that face in order for it to work.
He would have to do that face so that if you held up to your normal face, it wouldn't work.
Ooh.
So he made like a like a blow up face, like his mouth was full, right? Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
Because it just picks the algorithm, right, of like your face features where they are. So
probably looks funky when every time it tries to open his phone, like
yeah.
But it works. And you don't have to remind yourself to shut it off.
Exactly.
But I think, I mean, would Graphene OS be used like an everyday type of OS, or because like that's the other thing. Like, you think people are like, obviously he's using it as like an everyday OS. And I mean, this person was an activist, right? So like there are, again, targeted types of professions or hobbies that may have triggered or may trigger Custom and Border Patrol to ask these kind of questions, right? Because like this person was very active in the Atlanta area. And, you know, if you read about some of the things that he would, like his activist group was about, you know, could be reason for them to want to see what's on his phone based upon things that have been going on in that area. But nonetheless, you know, it is a trade-off to have something that's a little bit more secure, that has this kind of kill switch, duress passcode, if you will, and potentially lose everything that's on that device.
Yeah. I mean, I think in today's world, you absolutely can, if you go like full tin hat, right? Like you can go, there's OSs that have this. There's obviously privacy centric, you know, email and like Proton Mail, and there's like Signal and Threema, you know, like your chat apps can be like end-to-end encrypted. You don't have to sync anything to the cloud. You know, if even like, you know, I use 1Password, but you can use something like KeyPass or a local hosted, you know, password vault that never goes online. You can use Linux that doesn't connect to anything. I saw this influencer, the cybersecurity influencer on Instagram the other day, and they were like, yeah, I use this one cell phone provider that is privacy centric that actually accepts cash in the mail. So I was like what? Like they pay with cash in the mail. Yeah. So yeah, you can absolutely get like crazy about it, right? But then you're obviously, there's a lot of performance and user, you know, trade-offs. So
it's a calculated decision that would have to be made.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. If I went to like China, I think I would probably bring
I'd bring a burner phone.
I'd bring a burner phone, nothing synced. I would, you know, if I wanted pictures, I would just like buy an actual digital camera, right? And take it on an SD card and go that route. I'd bring a burner laptop, you know, probably Linux with just a web browser if I need to get to anything. Yeah. So but in most cases, for most people every day, like you can de-Googleize yourself a lot. I think it's very hard to like completely be off of it, but I think if you want to like reduce the amount of cloud presence or talking to the cloud, your trail, if you don't want to, some people like that they say something in the ether and then they get served in Amazon like, hey, you want
Would
this?
you like this? Do
Yeah.
you see this? That happened
Some
the other
people,
day. I was watching, I think it was even like, I was watching some video or whatever on like my personal computer, and then an Instagram, like they popped up in like like an ad, like in the
yeah,
in the feed. It's
it's
wild.
so fast. Yeah. And some people like that convenience. Some people find it creepy. I think that it's not great,
Yeah.
but yeah, so there's trade-offs. The technology exists today. If you need to, stuff like Graphene OS exists. So I think definitely look at it. But yeah, I'm going to be following this case with some interest here because
Yeah,
I
I'm
do.
curious.
I'm going to be interested in seeing the actual result of if he gets
Yeah.
convicted or not. So
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And I think, I think with both of these cases, right? I think the biggest thing is if you're like a normal vacationer, like run of the mill, just living life, maybe you're an accountant, for a small firm somewhere. Maybe these things aren't like, don't let the fear like take you over, because it can be wild. But the biggest thing is being vigilant. And then, you know, obviously don't do any defaults, but like there are things that you can do on your personal side to protect yourself more, or to just have more of like comfort, if you will.
mhm.
And then, you know, you are someone who you think might be a target for one either of these cases. Be vigilant and maybe, you know, rethink some things, if you will. But I mean, it's like anything. Like when I travel, I like I pay for this travel insurance called Global Rescue.
Yeah.
If I need a helicopter extraction, they'll come get me. Like that. Like it is.
Stop.
It is.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
If I get Liam Neeson taken, they'll come get me. Like, and there's like
global
even like a
rescue.
button like that I can have, like there's a button that I can have on my phone to activate it or call it. You can pay for a high altitude extraction.
Wow.
They do some
That's
funky
so
things,
cool.
but there's actually, and it's like super extra. Like, and it's not like your normal travel insurance where it's like, oh, like your trip's covered if something's canceled. No, this
Yeah,
is like, because I do things like going horseback riding in the middle of Patagonia. Like,
sure.
and the insurance, well, and it's funny because I used Global Rescue anyway, but the insurance at this ranch suggests, because it is in the middle of nowhere with zero service. Like they have a sat phone and a Garmin GPS thing, but they say have Global Rescue. But realistically, it's going to take a while for them to get to you, like no matter where
Yeah.
we are, because like it's like like on the map, it's like wow, it's like right on the border of Chile, like where we were. But anyway, like
But not everybody needs that, right? Like you do riskier things.
I probably don't need it, but
Yeah.
it's nice
Yeah.
to know I can call in some civilian soft folks if I need them.
I do think that in most cases, like especially personal, something lightweight like Next DNS will like
Yeah.
solve your use case because it's very easy. I love it for its parental controls too. Like, for kids, so I can limit their time on different I can block like Reddit, like pretty easily. So,
Good. Because that's
and it
always
does
hard.
yeah,
And
and
kids
it
are
does ad,
smart.
ad filtering. They're super
Yeah.
smart.
Like they'll find a workaround
Yep.
ever since
You
the
can
beginning of the internet. Like,
you can also segment different profiles. So I have like a parent profile, which is, more lenient. And then I have a kid's profile, which is more locked down. And it's very simple. And like the free tier, they have a free tier too. So you can try it out.
I saw that.
You only get up to 300,000 DNS requests, but then their paid tier is
It was like
think
$20
it's
a year.
unlimited.
20 bucks is
It's
something.
20 bucks a year, which in this economy is like nothing, right? Like and I think you get unlimited or a lot. I've never hit the limit on DNS requests with their paid tier.
I was going to say, so yeah, it's 20 bucks a year for unlimited. But like, if you want like 300,000 queries per month, what does that look like? Like, is that 300 web requests? Like, queries?
You'll actually hit it pretty quick.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you don't have a household of.
If you don't block ads, right? Because every ad that serves up, it's another DNS request, right? So yeah. So, but they do have easy like toggles of already pre-built ad blocking like lists. So you do that, and then so you can hit it pretty quickly, but it's a good test, and then you'll be able to see all the traffic, and then $20 for the year. I mean, to me, I don't even notice. Like
nice, yeah. Oh yeah, that's like nothing. But
yeah, awesome. Carly, thank you so much for stepping in. Yeah,
sure. Adam, anytime you need me.
All right. Well, that is our show for this week. Thank you for watching and listening as always. If you have any questions or topics you want us to talk about, check the show notes. We'll have all the links to the topics that we talked about, as well as our contact information. Thank you. And we'll talk to everyone next week.
Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Blue Security Podcast. Please check out the show notes, catch up on episodes you may have missed, and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Find Andy on Twitter @AJaw0 and Adam @AJBrewer. See you at our next episode.